The whistle pierced the humid Spanish air like a shattered promise, and I froze mid-stride on the sun-baked track, my lungs burning as if they'd inhaled shards of glass. "Bella, what the hell was that?" Brianna's voice sliced through the echo, low and laced with something sharper than disappointment, betrayal, maybe, or the ghost of her own unspoken fears. In that instant, as her shadow fell over me like an eclipse, I realized the real race wasn't the one we'd been running, it was the one tearing us apart from the inside. It was the summer of 2024 in Cadiz, that sun-drenched corner of southwestern Spain where the Atlantic kisses the edge of Europe with relentless waves, and American expats like me chase dreams that feel just out of reach. I'd come here on a whim, fresh out of a dead-end community college track program back in Ohio, trading cornfields for cobblestone streets and the promise of a fresh start. At 24, I was all lean muscle and restless energy, the kind that propels you forward until you crash into walls you didn't see coming. My name's Bella Ruiz, half Mexican, half Midwestern mutt, and I'd scraped together enough savings to join the local athletics club, hoping the salt air would scrub away the ache of a family that never quite fit and a string of heartaches that left me questioning if love was just another finish line I couldn't cross. The club was a ragtag haven for misfits, retired sailors turned joggers, college kids on gap years, and a handful of pros grinding for one last shot at the Olympics. But Brianna Hayes. She was the sun around which we all orbited. 32, with the kind of quiet authority that made you straighten your spine without a word, she was an American transplant too, ex-Marine, former collegiate decathlete, now coaching part-time while piecing together a life from freelance training gigs and the occasional bartending shift at a beachfront dive. Her auburn hair was always cropped close, practical as her black tracksuits, and her green eyes held the Atlantic's depth, stormy one minute, clear as crystal the next. She'd moved to Cadiz 5 years back, fleeing the ghosts of a divorce back in Seattle, or so the whispers went. To us, she was unbreakable, until she wasn't. Our first practice together was a blur of drills and barked commands. "Faster, Ruiz. You're not here to sightsee." She'd pace the track like a panther, stopwatch in hand, her voice carrying over the crash of distant waves. I hated her at first. Or thought I did. The way she'd linger after everyone else had packed up, making me run extra laps for form correction, felt like punishment for sins I hadn't confessed. But there was something in those extensions, a flicker in her gaze when she adjusted my stride, her calloused hand brushing my arm just long enough to send sparks skittering up my spine. I told myself it was the heat, the exhaustion. Lies we tell ourselves to keep running. By week 3, the extra sessions became ritual. The sun would dip low over the Bay of Cadiz, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds, and we'd be alone on the track, the world shrinking to the rhythm of our breaths. "You're holding back, Bella," she'd say, not unkindly, as we cooled down with stretches on the infield grass. "What's chasing you?" I'd laugh it off, jokes about bad exes or my abuela's endless lectures on settling down, but her questions peeled layers I didn't know I had. One evening, as cicadas hummed in the olive groves beyond the fence, she shared a sliver of her own story, the husband who'd left her for a man, the military discharge that still stung like salt in a wound. "Love's a battlefield, kid," she said, her voice rough around the edges. "But you don't have to fight it alone." I fell for her then, in the quiet spaces between words. It wasn't the fireworks of my past flings, those messy, hormone-fueled crashes with women who vanish like smoke. This was deeper, a slow burn that warmed the hollows I'd ignored for years. I'd catch myself watching her during group runs, the way her shoulders rolled with effortless power, or how she'd flash that rare, crooked smile when someone nailed a personal best. At night, in my cramped apartment overlooking the cathedral spires, I'd replay our conversations, tracing the shape of her name on my lips like a secret prayer. Brianna. It tasted like salt and possibility. But Cadiz wasn't just sunsets and sea breezes, it had teeth. The club was a pressure cooker of egos and ambitions, and I wasn't the only one noticing Brianna's pull. Enter Sofia, the 28-year-old sprinter from Barcelona, lithe, golden-haired, with a laugh that turned heads and a reputation for collecting admirers like seashells. She transferred in mid-season, all confidence and insider jokes, and from day one, she zeroed in on Brianna like a heat-seeking missile. "Coach, you ever miss the States? We could grab tapas, talk shop," she'd purr after practice, tossing her ponytail with practiced ease. Brianna would nod politely, but I'd see the tension in her jaw, the way she'd glance my way as if gauging my reaction. Jealousy crept in like fog off the water, thick and disorienting. I confronted it in mirrors, in the steam of post-run showers, telling myself I had no claim. We weren't anything, not yet. But one humid afternoon, as thunder rumbled over the Sierra de Grazalema, Sophia cornered me in the locker room. "You think you're special, Ruiz. The way she babies you. It's pity. She's slumming it with the newbie." Her words landed like punches, but it was the smirk, the knowing glint that said she'd already staked her ground, that hollowed me out. I shoved past her, heart hammering, and bolted for the track. Brianna was there, of course, sensing the storm before it broke. "Talk to me, Bella. What's eating you?" I spilled it all then, the words tumbling like rocks down a cliff, the crush I couldn't shake, the fear that I was just another project, the ache of wanting more than stolen moments. She listened, unblinking, the rain starting to patter on the stadium roof. When I finished, she stepped closer, too close, the air between us electric. "You're not a project," she murmured, her thumb brushing a raindrop from my cheek. "You're the reason I stay late." Our lips met in the downpour, tentative at first, then fierce, like we'd both been starving. It was salt and rain and the taste of finally being seen. For those stolen minutes, the world was ours, no egos, no exes, just us, tangled in the storm. But secrets in Cadiz don't stay buried. Word spread like wildfire through the club's WhatsApp chain, gossip fueled by Sophia's venom and the small-town insularity that binds even expat enclaves. By week's end, the practices felt charged, eyes darting, whispers trailing like smoke. Brianna pulled back, her texts turning curt, "Focus on form. We'll talk later." I nodded, swallowing the hurt, but the distance gnawed at me. One night, after a grueling relay where Sophia deliberately clipped my heel, sending me sprawling into the gravel, I limped home to find Brianna waiting on my stoop, a bottle of Rioja in hand. "We can't do this here," she said, voice cracking. "Not like this." We talked until dawn, wine loosening tongues and truths. She confessed the divorce scars ran deeper than I'd imagined, the church her family clung to back home, the military's unspoken code that had left her questioning her worth. "I'm not built for this, Bella. For us." But her hand found mine, and we kissed again, slower this time, mapping the contours of forgiveness. For a month, we carved out a fragile world. Midnight runs along the Playa de la Victoria, her apartment in the old town's labyrinthine alleys where we'd cook paella and dance to Nina Simone on vinyl. It was romance distilled, whispers in the dark, her fingers tracing constellations on my skin, promises murmured against collarbones. "You're my anchor," she'd say, and I'd believe her, because in those moments, we were unbreakable. Yet the cracks were forming. Sophia's sabotage escalated. Tampered water bottles that left me cramping mid-drill, anonymous notes slipped into my gear, "Stay in your lane, dyke." Brianna noticed, her protectiveness flaring like a match in the wind. "Ignore it," she'd urge, but I saw the toll, the way her smiles grew forced, her gaze drifting to the horizon as if plotting escape. I pushed harder, training like a woman possessed, channeling the hurt into speed. We qualified for the regional championships in Seville, a coup that should have united us. Instead, it amplified the stakes. The night before departure, we lay entwined on her balcony, the city lights twinkling like distant stars. "What if we lose?" I whispered, not about the race. She pulled me closer, her breath warm against my temple. "Then we get up. Together." It was the closest we'd come to naming it, love, raw and unadorned. But as sleep claimed me, I didn't see the email lighting up her phone, a job offer from a high-profile gym in Barcelona, the kind of opportunity that screamed fresh starts. Or the reply she'd draft in the pre-dawn hours, accepting. Need to move on. The bus to Seville rattled like my nerves, the arid Andalusian landscape blurring past windows streaked with dust. Brianna sat beside me, her knee brushing mine in silent solidarity, but the air between us hummed with unspoken weight. Sophia lounged across the aisle, earbuds in, her smug glances like barbs I pretended not to feel. The championships loomed, a 2-day gauntlet of heats and finals under the relentless Spanish sun, and I poured every ounce of my fraying heart into preparation. Visualize the win, Brianna coached during warm-ups, her hand steady on my shoulder. But in my mind's eye, it wasn't the tape breaking, it was her arms around me at the finish. Day 1 was a grind, qualifying rounds where the heat warped the track into a mirage, and I clocked personal bests that left spectators murmuring. Brianna's pride shone through in the stands, her fist pumping discreetly, a grin cracking her stoic facade. Sophia faltered early, her form unraveling in the 400-meter, and for a fleeting hour, harmony reigned. We celebrated with churros and thick hot chocolate in the old quarter, the three of us, me, Brianna, and a couple of teammates, laughing over shared war stories. To underdogs, Brianna toasted, her eyes locking on mine with a heat that made my pulse stutter. Later, in the dim hotel hallway, she stole a kiss, quick, fierce, before vanishing into her room. Get sleep, champ. But sleep evaded me, chased by dreams of abandonment, empty tracks, her silhouette fading into fog. Dawn brought the semis, and adrenaline sharpened everything to a blade's edge. I exploded off the blocks, legs churning like pistons, the crowd's roar a distant thunder. Crossing the line first, I spun toward the barriers, searching for her face amid the blur. There she was, beaming, but shadowed by Sophia's approach, too close, too insistent. I couldn't hear their words over the din, but the tilt of Brianna's head, the way Sophia's hand lingered on her arm, twisted something deep in my gut. Finals that afternoon were carnage. The air thickened with tension, rivals eyeing each other like gladiators in the Colosseum's shadow. Brianna's pre-race pep talk was gold. You're not running against them, Bella. You're running for you, for the woman who's stronger than her fears. Her words anchored me as I towed the line, the gun's crack unleashing hell. Lactic acid clawed my muscles, vision tunneling, but I surged ahead, tape snapping under my chest in a photo-finish victory. The stadium erupted. I collapsed to my knees, tears mixing with sweat, the gold medal cold and heavy around my neck. Elation carried us into the evening, medals clinking against beer mugs in a taberna alive with flamenco strums and stomping heels. Brianna found me on the fringes, pulling me into a shadowed alcove where the world narrowed to us. You were magnificent, she breathed, her lips claiming mine in a kiss that tasted of victory and vulnerability. We slipped away to the rooftop terrace, the Guadalquivir River snaking silver below, and there, under a canopy of stars, we let the barriers crumble. Confessions flowed like the wine, my fears of unworthiness, rooted in a childhood of absent fathers and mothers' weary sighs, her terror of loving again, after betrayal had carved her hollow. You make me want to try, she admitted, fingers interlacing with mine. To build something real. It was our pinnacle, a night of whispered vows and tender explorations, bodies and souls aligning in the quiet dance of true intimacy. Dawn crept in too soon, the bus ride home a haze of contented silence. Cadiz welcomed us with open arms, palm-fringed promenades buzzing with post-championship buzz, locals toasting our upset win. The club threw an impromptu fiesta on the beach, bonfires crackling, guitars wailing, the sea a black mirror reflecting our joy. Brianna and I stole moments amid the chaos, her hand in mine under the table, a shared glance that spoke volumes. Sophia sulked on the periphery, her barbs dulled by defeat, and for once, I felt untouchable. But euphoria is fragile as sea glass. 2 days later, practice resumed, and the email I'd glimpsed in her phone that fateful night resurfaced like a riptide. I'd borrowed her laptop to print training logs, stumbling on the open tab, confirmation, Barcelona position starts next month. Thrilled to join the team. My world tilted. Barcelona, Sophia's turf, a glittering escape from our Salt Street haven. Was this the fresh start she'd hinted at? Or something more insidious, Sophia's whispers poisoning the well. I confronted her after hours, the track empty save for the ghosts of our runs. Is it true? You're leaving. My voice cracked, raw as exposed nerves. Brianna's face crumpled, defenses shattering. It's not what you think. The offer came months ago, before us. I turned it down, Bella. For this. For you. Relief flooded me, but doubt lingered, a shadow in her eyes. She pulled me close, apologies murmured into my hair, and we made love on the infield under twilight's hush, reaffirming, reclaiming. Yet the seed of betrayal had taken root. Sophia struck next, her revenge a scalpel's precision. A week on, during a team meeting in the clubhouse, she dropped the bomb, leaked emails, screenshots flashing on her phone, painting Brianna as the architect of my special treatment, falsified logs, whispered bribes to judges in Seville. She's using you, Ruiz. To feel young again. Check the dates. The room went still, eyes swiveling between us like jury members. Brianna's denial was fierce, lies, all of it, but the damage seeped in, trust fracturing like dry earth under drought. I fled to the cliffs of Tarifa, where Europe meets Africa in a wind-whipped standoff, the strait churning below like my thoughts. Hours passed in solitude, waves crashing accusations. Was our love built on sand? Had she played me, a rebound in her post-divorce haze? By nightfall, Brianna found me, her truck's headlights cutting the dusk. Sophia's desperate, she pleaded, dropping to her knees beside me. She's been after the Barcelona spot too, sabotaging me to clear her path. Tears carved tracks down her face, mirroring mine. I love you, Bella. God help me, I do. Don't let her win. We clung there, salt wind whipping our hair, and in that raw vulnerability, truth emerged. Brianna confessed the full betrayal, not Sophia's, but her own, the initial Barcelona flirtation, a safety net she'd never intended to pull. I was scared, she admitted. Of how much you mean. Forgiveness came hard, forged in the fire of her honesty, and we drove back entwined in the cab, hands clasped over the gearshift. The club cleared Brianna's name, investigation revealing Sophia's digital forgeries, and she was suspended, her dreams of coaching in Cadiz crumbling like sea stacks. In the aftermath, our bond deepened, tempered by trial. We volunteered at local youth programs, channeling pain into purpose, teaching kids from the Barrio de la Vina that strength isn't just speed, but resilience. Nights blurred into poetry, reading Lorca by candlelight, her voice weaving Spanish verses with English translations, my head in her lap. Eries mi faro, she'd whisper, you're my lighthouse, and I'd trace the scars on her knuckles, remnants of boxing gloves and broken hearts. Love, we learned, wasn't absence of storm, it was dancing in the rain. Yet shadows lengthened. Barcelona's siren call persisted, now laced with Sophia's relocation, her gloating posts on social media a daily thorn. Brianna's resolve wavered, late-night calls to old contacts, resumes polished in secret. I felt it, the pull of ambition, the fear of stagnation in our coastal cocoon. What if we go together? I proposed one starry evening, but her silence spoke volumes, chains we couldn't both bear. The breaking point came mid-autumn, leaves turning gold on the cork oaks. A gala in Seville, fundraiser for Andalusian sports, drew us back to the lion's den. Dressed in borrowed silk, I felt exposed, Brianna's arm a steady anchor through the crowd. Sophia was there, champagne flute in hand, her smile a venomous bloom. Congrats on the pity prize, she hissed as we passed, but it was the photo she flashed, Brianna and her, arms linked at a long-ago Seattle bar, that gutted me. Old friends, Sophia sneered. She never mentioned. The gala's glamour shattered like crystal underfoot. I slipped into the alcove shadows, heart pounding a dirge, the laughter from the hall a mocking chorus. Brianna found me minutes later, her tuxedo rumpled, eyes wide with the hunt's urgency. Bella, wait, but I whirled, the photo thrust like evidence in a trial. Old friends. Or the reason you're still glancing at Barcelona flyers? The words escaped barbed, years of guarded hopes unraveling in a breath. She recoiled as if slapped, then surged forward, gripping my arms with desperate strength. That was a lifetime ago, before the divorce, before I even knew what I wanted. Her voice broke, raw as the Atlantic gales. Sophia's twisting it, Bella. She's the one who reached out last month, begging for a reference. I said no. I chose you. Tears welled, spilling unchecked, and in that vulnerability, the fortress of her marine-honed stoicism crumbled. We sank to the marble floor, backs against cool stone, the party's hum fading to irrelevance. She poured it out then, the full tapestry of betrayals, the husband's duplicity, Sophia's fleeting post-divorce fling that had ended in mutual regret, the Barcelona offer renewed as a corporate ploy to poach her for their diversity hire quota. I turned it down again today, she confessed, phone clutched like contraband. Because running from us would kill me slower than staying. Doubt warred with desire, but her gaze, steady, sea-green, tipped the scales. Prove it, I challenged, half plea, half prayer. She did, then and there, dialing the recruiter on speaker, voice steel as she declined unequivocally. Tell them Coach Hayes is staying put. Cadiz is home. The call ended, silence bloomed, thick with release. I pulled her to me, our kiss a seal on fragile peace, lips salty with tears, hands mapping forgiveness in the dim light. We left the gala early, driving south through moonlit olive groves, the radio crooning Joan Baez's Diamonds and Rust. Conversation flowed freer than ever, dreams deferred, like my whisper of coaching someday, her buried wish to write, a memoir of trails run and hearts mended. We could collaborate, she mused, fingers drumming the wheel. Your fire, my words. Laughter bubbled up, easing the knots we'd carried. Back in Cadiz, we walked the Ramblas at midnight, street lamps casting halos on whitewashed walls, street vendors hawking roasted chestnuts. In a hidden Tosca, over glasses of sherry, we toasted not to survival, but to thriving, acknowledging the scars as signposts, not shackles. Winter crept in on Sirocco winds, softening the edges of our trials. The club rebounded, Sophia's exile a cautionary tale, and Brianna's role evolved, less drill sergeant, more mentor, her sessions infused with the humanism she'd rediscovered in us. I thrived under it, not just in miles logged, but in self-unearthed, volunteering with immigrant youth, their stories echoing my own border-crossing heritage. Brianna joined, her patience a balm for wary teens, and in those circles, our love shone unspoken, a glance across the gym, a shared squeeze of hands during cool-downs. But true drama brews in quiet eruptions. Early spring brought Brianna's manuscript pitch, a literary agent from Madrid, drawn by whispers of her authentic voice. Acceptance followed, a book deal for Trails of the Heart, blending athletics memoir with queer awakening. Elation surged, but so did fear, exposure in a Spain still shedding Franco's shadows, where small-town expats could turn spotlight to pyre. What if they drag us through the mud, she fretted one stormy eve, thunder rattling our windows. I held her, tracing the map of her worries. Then we face it. Together. Like always. The launch in Cadiz Teatro Falla was electric, packed house, flashbulbs popping, readers devouring passages that mirrored our journey, veiled, yet vivid. Sophia's absence loomed like a vanquished spectre. She'd faded to Barcelona's fringes, her star dimmed by scandals of her own making. As Brianna read from the stage, voice steady, eyes finding mine in the crowd, pride swelled, a tide lifting us both. Post-reading, in the green room amid well-wishers, she pulled me aside. This is ours, she said, slipping a dedication copy into my hands, to Bella, my true north, who taught me home isn't a place, but a person. Yet climax demands crescendo. Days later, a letter arrived, yellowed envelope, postmarked Seattle. Brianna's ex-husband, contrite in ink, apologies for the wreckage, news of his own coming out, an olive branch extended too late. It unearthed ghosts. She paced our apartment, shadows deepening under her eyes. He wants to visit. To make amends. Her tone was leaden, laced with the old terror of unworthiness. I listened, heart aching for the girl she'd been, abandoned, adrift. Go if you need to, I urged, though it tore me. Closure's a gift. I'll be here. She didn't. Instead, we burned the letter in a beach bonfire, flames devouring the past as waves lapped our feet. I've got my closure, she declared, turning to me with firelit resolve. In you. That night, we made promises anew, not grand vows, but practical ones, shared leases, joint trainings, a future sketched in tentative strokes. Love, we affirmed, isn't conquest, it's companionship, humanistic in its humility. Summer returned, cycles unbroken. We ran the track at dawn, her stride syncing with mine, the Atlantic a symphony backdrop. Challenges lingered, family calls from Ohio demanding real jobs, the club's funding woes, but they paled against our foundation. One golden afternoon, post-practice, she dropped to one knee on the infield, not with rings, but with a simple seashell, iridescent, etched with our initials. Marry me. Not today, but when we're ready. Partners, always. Tears blurred my yes, and we laughed through kisses, the world vast and welcoming. In Cadiz embrace, where old worlds collide and new ones bloom, Brianna and I found not perfection, but profundity. Betrayal had forged us sharper, conflict more compassionate. Our story isn't fairy tale, but testament, love as verb, fierce and forgiving, guiding hearts through tempests to tranquil shores. And in the quiet after runs, her hand in mine, I know, we've crossed the finish line, together.